So look, I don't think there's anybody who don't want to see cops wearing body cam. We have to be reasonable about this whole call for body cameras to be worn by police officers. In fact, body cameras just became a thing over the years in the major nations like the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, etc., etc. There's a reason for that. Um, Cops were not required to wear body worn cameras because people trusted police officers. Now, it is almost impossible for me to argue that trust has been where it is needed to be in the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Nevertheless, I will also argue that some of that should be placed solely at the feet of some members of the force, not all. Um, but again, police officers come from are just a small snippet of the population. You know, I think the Jamaica Constabulary Force now consists of about 12,000 members, which is, I think it's just as highest peak it's ever been because when I served back in the 80s to 90s, it was somewhere about 8,000, so way below peak, so about two-thirds of its actual strength. And it was just a small percentage of the officers who actually did the bulk of the work. Now, there has been some transformation in the force, I agree, um, in terms of training, even though I still maintain that training is not where it's supposed to be, in terms of equipment, motivation, etc. But one of the things that I must say real quickly is that, look, this hue and cry about body worn cameras in Jamaica, it's not about body worn cameras. It's not about police accountability. Jamaicans are people who don't like to obey rules. They don't like to obey laws. And there are certain people who believe that Jamaica is supposed to be this place where it's a near the wall. Anybody can do whatever the hell they want. So the reality is, those people screaming about body worn cameras and questioning uh, police versions of shootings, they're not doing it because they are convinced that these the police version of events are wrong, but they are players in a game with interests. The special interest, um, there are a lot of people who are in their own interest groups, and they're benefiting from crime and the perception that the police is incompetent or a brutal, murderous force. There's the so-called human rights people like Jamaicans for Justice et al., who fundamentally have to stir up hysteria. They have to stir up hysteria in order to get money from overseas. They get money from overseas agencies to fund their activities, which is to help to destabilize our country. Of course, a lot of Jamaican people don't understand that concept, but they get money under the guise of to stir up trouble. That the police, because if you can't trust the police, which is what they try to establish day in, day out, then the country probably inexorably going to end up in anarchy. And so most Jamaicans don't understand, and a large percentage of them, I would posit, don't understand how that works. If the country is considered unsafe, a crime-ridden country, then it is not a safe place to travel. It's not a safe place to invest, and as a consequence, the economy cannot thrive. And so maybe you guys could start to figure out which small black nation you know that is uber successful. The fact is that powerful Western nations, they don't want small black run countries to succeed, much less thrive. Okay, they want them to continue to be beggars. So the people who fund Jamaicans for Justice are fully aware That's why they give money to Jamaicans for Justice. Do you think they care about black people's rights in Jamaica? They don't give a shit about black people's rights in America. They don't give a shit about black people's rights in Canada. They don't give a shit about black people's rights in the UK or anywhere else. So these contributors who are giving money to JFJ, they know what they're doing. It's all in their own self-interest. But of course, black people, and especially those in Jamaica, those opportunists, they don't know any better. So they take it and they do Masa's job. They do Masa's bidding. They do Masa's work. Now, don't want to dwell on that. That's a conversation for another time. Now, Jamaicans, again, like I said, they do not like to follow rules. They don't like laws. And then there's the People's National Party that understands this, and so they choose to side with the criminals, excuse me, side with the people who don't want to obey any rules and make it seem like when the government, this particular government or whatever before it was when during Siaga or before even when it was Shearer's time, that they wanted to unalive poor people. No, they want a country in which poor people can thrive, not just survive. All right. Now, to their credit, a lot of young people are understanding this and are moving forward and changing and the way they perceive law enforcement in their country because they're starting to understand. They're getting educated and they're starting to understand that law enforcement is necessary. And if you look at the way the world is being operated right now, whether you agree or not, there are people, powerful people in places who are determining, who are acting like gods and determining who should travel here and who should travel there because of crime and because of this and because of that. No, I understand a lot of that is hyperbolic bullshit. A lot of that is racist and xenophobic. But the reality is that some of it actually can be can actually be attributed to criminality. All right. Now, this whole issue about body camera, like I said, it's not that they necessarily want to see body cameras. They just want to continue to question police action. And there are a lot of people in positions of power who feed that machine because, of course, it suits them and they want a country where there's no laws or there's very, very lax laws for them to operate their gun running, for them to operate their illegal arms dealings and their illegal drug dealings. So, body worn cameras, I guarantee you, if the government was to put the infrastructure in place tomorrow and the officers going on patrol or on duty out there wore those body worn cameras, and when they have to use force, the very same shitheads would be complaining that the officer didn't have to use force. Because, of course, their judgment supersedes the judgment of the officer in that moment and his perception of the necessity for force. But again, how do you explain this to them? Because they know everything. And one of the things in Jamaica is every little person with a little degree in Jamaica that didn't get up by the University of the West Indies, they call the intellectual get up. Everybody who get a little degree, even get a degree in history and get a geography or whatever the fuck you get it in, he knows everybody else's job now because he's an authority on everything. He or she becomes an authority on everything because, of course, you know, they earned a liberal arts degree. Excuse me. Now, on the question of body worn cameras, we don't have a specific percentage of officers who wear body worn cameras in the big countries. But in Western nations, the statistics indicate about 80% of large agencies in the United States, for example, in 2025, and growing in the UK, Canada, and Australia, with many forces implementing or expanding programs though usage varies significantly by force and country. Major U.S. cities and states mandate them, showing a strong trend towards near universal use in large departments and increasing coverage across the world. And I can tell you, I've traveled all over the United States, and I can tell you that smaller departments do not wear body worn cameras. They don't. So the idea that the idea that you know body worn cameras, Jamaica is a small country, 2.7, 2.9, somewhere between 2.7 and 2.9 million people. Um, we don't have the resources, even though I'd love to see officers with body worn cameras. We don't even have the resources to provide officers with the other tools they need. We're talking about body worn cameras. Now, ultimately, the police department is going to have to get body worn cameras, right? But I guarantee you, like I said, as soon as the officers on patrol get body worn cameras and the footage of incidents of that are called into question are released to these same shitheads, they are the ones who are still going to be complaining that they don't trust the body worn cameras, or they don't trust what it says they edited, or the use of force was not necessary. So it's not about body worn cameras. It's about a people who resent the rule of law. Jamaicans don't like follow laws. They love to talk, love to chat, love to run their mouths. And sometimes you have to wonder, can't they just like do a little research? Do a little research before you talk. And they just blah, 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 blah on issues that they know nothing about. And sometimes, even if you do research, you can't follow everything you read on the internet. So you have to defer to the people who know what they're talking about, the people who are experts in those fields. I don't know anything about medicine. So how the hell would I argue with a doctor about medicine? I could read all the medical books I want to. I could read all kinds of shit on the internet. Doesn't make me a doctor. So how would I be able to argue with a doctor about how to do his work, how to do his job? I can't. It wouldn't make sense. So, like I said, I want to see body-worn cameras on our police. But I'm also conversant. I'm also very aware that it will not shut up the naysayers, the Monday morning quarterback. It won't shut them up because it's not about body-worn cameras. And when I say that Jamaica is a nation with a high percentage of criminals, you gotta believe me. It's like it's like it's like a fish coming from the bottom of the ocean until you do a shark down there. You gotta believe them. Yeah. This whole idea of coming out and crying wolf that the police did this to them and the police did that to them. And I'm not sitting here and saying that police have not acted contrary to their oaths. In fact, we saw where a senior police officer and two members of the Jamaica Defense Force were arrested recently for some very serious crimes. And people run their mouths and they say, well, see, we told you, we told you. What are you telling us? You didn't tell us nothing. Because it is the police who arrested them. It's not you. You didn't bust them committing the crimes. It is police investigation that led to their arrest. And police are people too. And God forbid, it hurts me. I have been away from law enforcement for a long time, but it really hurts me to see cops who betray their oaths. It hurts me. Greed. Wanting to live a life that your salary cannot afford. Not a good thing. But when you betray the trust placed in you and you betray your oath to the extent that you're dealing in illicit drugs and weapons? No. Then the hammer should come down on you. I say this without any equivocation at all. The hammer should come down on you because you know better. And you know when it comes to guns that the guns that you're dealing with could kill you or your colleagues or members of your family. Money cannot be that important that you sell your soul. Police officers have to hold themselves to a higher standard. I know I did when I served. Gotta hold yourself to a higher standard. The final thing I want to say is, so let's get the body worn cameras. I saw an ex-colleague of mine um, with a letter in the Jamaica Daily Gleaner today, just today. Uh, and he was talking about police body worn cameras, and I thought I'd do this video on the question. Uh, I was a little bit surprised at him, but not totally, because I understand why he would be out there writing about the need for body worn cameras now that he's a civilian. Uh, Here's the deal. I served I served at the Beat and Foot Division. I served at the Mobile Reserve. I served at CIB, Criminal Investigation. Didn't spend a long time in the force, spent about 10 years. I didn't even spend a full 10. But I can tell you this. The whole idea of people demonstrating and calling into question police version of events is not nothing new. This is a trend that has been going on for so long. And it was something that women would do. Because the women, many of them are criminals too, and they're criminal co-conspirators. They depend on the money that the gunmen bring in to eat, to party. I remember when I was a young cop, a lot of them, those ghetto girls used to tell me, "Oh, officer so and so, you're so beautiful, you're so handsome. But I can't deal with you because you don't make no money. My man have to can thief, my man have to can thief and give me buy jewelry. And they lace with all kind of hen's chains around their necks and rings on every finger." So I understand the ghetto life. Never lived in the ghetto really, but I understand the life. It is a life that is sustained to a large extent. Not totally, but it's a life that is sustained to a large extent by illegal activities in many instances. Let me be clear. I'm not broad brushing poor people living in the ghetto. That's not what I'm doing. I'm saying my experience is that ghetto life entails a lot of illicit activity for people to survive. That's what I'm saying. And so the gangsters in those areas take advantage of those people. So when the police goes into those areas and the gangsters don't like it, they send the women out to demonstrate and the old people to demonstrate so that they can continue with their illegal activities in those areas. And so you have women going out and ball and ball and ball how they see police unalive somebody at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning while they were sleeping. And everybody saw it in that community. So we were used to that as cops. Never paid it any mind because we knew it was par for the course. We knew it was their modus operandi. And it hasn't stopped. It has continued because there are a lot of people with a vested interest in demonizing the police, as I articulated earlier, including Jamaicans for Justice. The one that shouldn't be in the business of doing that is a taxpayer funded INDICOM. And I've written over and over and over and over about this. I'm tired. I sound like a broken record on Indica. Yeah. And so as the police continue to recover a whole bunch of weapons and ammunition as they have done recently, you don't hear the talk anymore. You don't hear any chatting from the peanut gallery, Indica and Jamaicans for Justice. They stay silent. When there's so much good news, they stay silent. They don't open their mouths because if they don't open their mouths, they become more unpopular. The more they talk, is the more unpopular they become among the Jamaican people, the masses of the silent majority of Jamaican people. Because I still believe that a silent majority of Jamaican people are law-abiding people who want to go about their business in peace. But the Jamaicans for Justice, criminal-loving supporters, they're pretty smart. They know when to shut up and when to speak. So, with all the good news about the police officers recovering thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds of ammunition and many guns, murder down to a 31-year low, other violent crimes down significantly, they keep quiet. But the minute in that crime fight that somebody raises a weapon to a police officer and a police officer have to take the necessary steps to protect themselves, you hear that it's extrajudicial. Now, people have brains in their heads. And like I said before, and I'll continue to say this, the jails and the prisons are filled with people who did not raise their weapons at the police. Daily, we see instances where police officers arrest people with weapons and they go to jail. Nobody gets unalived. Nobody gets unalived. But those don't make the news. You don't hear anybody talking about them. And so the police has got to do a better job of putting that out there. They have people now in they have paid people. They have people now who are paid to interact with the public, to put information out there. And so they must use these people. They must use the people who are now the face of the force, the public information people, to put information out there and to quell the lies from these shitheads who continue to stir up trouble and claim that police is doing this and police is doing that and police is doing that. The police is doing a fucking good job of unaliving those monsters. And that's why the crime has gone down. Whether you like it or not, that's why the crime has gone down. When you remove those monsters from the equation, of course, the statistics are going to be exponentially lower. So when you hear them open their mouths and they start to talk, and they start to talk about how the police are doing this or police are doing, understand this, whoever they are, when you hear them open their mouth and complain about police doing this and police doing that, understand that that they're supporters, or they have family members, are they benefiting somehow from these illicit activities of these monsters, these thugs. Folks, I gotta go. I gotta go. I'll see you on the next video. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, subscribe. Real talk here. No shit. No fluff. Real talk. And look, come on, man. If you interact with the video, if you watch the video, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, give it a thumbs down if you don't like it. drop a comment in the in the comment section below. Let me hear what you think, and tell me if I'm off on a tangent here. Just let me know. Talk to you next time. Thank you.